You know, we've had an opportunity through the films and the readings and the exercises to sample an incredible range of religious pursuits among the native peoples of Oklahoma. One thing that we haven't really talked about is I've noticed that there's this capacity for communities and their religious beliefs, their religious systems, to pull people back into the fold, if you will. So people have become disassociated for a variety of reasons, but it seems like that's an important aspect of Native religion.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's increasingly an aspect of Native religion, I think. At least that's been my general sense running around in Indian country, that people are working harder and harder to confront the challenges that they're facing in integrating their traditions into mainstream life, right? And people move away, like you've said, for a variety of reasons. And sometimes it's not always easy, as David Cumming talked about, to keep people coming back to their traditions. Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that I'm always sort of interested in as a scholar of English and literature is, just words. And there are some words that I think we hear over and over again that are getting a little threadbare. It seems like nowadays when we hear people talk about Native traditions, they talk about clinging to traditions. It's always clinging to traditions, like Indian people have been dropped in a very tall tree, right? And, they're desperately holding on, or they're getting, rushed along in a current that's going to sweep them into oblivion. Well, they've been in that current with everybody else, that current of history, forever, right? And the traditions that we've seen written about and talked about are not dying traditions. Right? They are vibrant, ongoing, living traditions. And in confronting those challenges, in keeping them healthy or recovering them, I think that we've seen people are using mediums like this one to do that work. I wondered when we started this how many people would want to talk to us. And for the most part, we haven't had to twist anybody's arm, right? We mention it and they say, when can you be here? Because I think they see this kind of information as part of what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, I think people forget that change and adaptation are critical elements of traditions. If they don't, they go away.
Right.
And the fact that they've not only persevered but flourished and undergone revival, I think is a real testament to the strength and the endurance. So these aren't desperate acts of culture here.
Right.
We have to remember that these religious pursuits and the traditions that accompany them have great temporal duration, and more importantly, that they still work today, that they've adapted and they provide meaningful lives for people in contemporary society.
Yeah, right. It seems to me too that because they are long-running traditions, it's not like they haven't encountered challenges in the past.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
They've worked out ways about how to adapt. There are adaptations for adaptation, in a sense, right? And so we've seen, too, in the past that there have been times in history when traditions have needed to be recovered or revitalized. Something like that happened with the Stomp Dance around the turn of the century and the allotment of Indian lands, right? And so having a toolbox in some ways to deal with these kinds of challenges as we go into the future is one of the things that's working best.
Yeah, and it's also important, I think, to mention that it's not just native, indigenous folks that have approached these questions and these challenges. This is a human universal.
Absolutely right. Yeah, if we're thinking about what role religion has to do in contemporary society, like you say, this is by no means isolated to Native folks. We see these debates about where public monies get spent, what curriculums ought to look like. These are concerns for everybody. But one of the fascinating things, to my mind too, about what we've been hearing is the repeated emphasis on duty, right? That the people who are carrying on these traditions have a duty to carry them out. And so while that duty may not be super easy for folks to find space for in contemporary society, I think it's fairly clear that they're not going to give up on it.
No, absolutely. I've heard it phrased, everybody has a part.
Yeah, I think that's right.